How do you estimate an unknown project, something that has never been done before? I can tell you how not to do it. How not to do it is using historical information to estimate an unknown type of project. That would be a bad thing to do. You see, a study by the American Society of Civil Engineers found that poorly defined scope contributed to an average cost overrun of 20.9%. 20% of the project was tagged on because there was poor scope management. What does this mean? It means that we didn't do enough homework in planning what to do when it needed to be done, and our estimates were off. And this is not just in the world of civil engineering, because I know some people are saying, well, that's engineering. But a Standish Group survey also indicated that 16.2% of IT projects fail completely due to poor estimation. So what can we learn from this? We need to do better in our estimates. And the way to succeed in our estimates is to get intentional about estimating unknown projects. Estimating unknown projects through a concept known as spikes is a common practice in the world of Agile. And today, I'm going to be teaching you my process for using spikes for unknown projects. Step 1, define the spike. What is a spike? Spike is a time box activity focused on research, exploration, or experimentation to gather information needed to estimate or mitigate risks in a project. The idea of a spike, you're driving the spike into the ground to be able to glean that value to help you in your estimates. A spike is just research. A spike is exploration, it's experimentation. So if you have an unknown, identify the specific area or aspect of the project that is unclear or that requires more information or research. Technology, methodology, logistics, investigation. Number 2, set a deadline for that spike. How long are we going to use to research this thing to be able to get some conclusive results? It could be anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks in the world of Agile typically, right? When you get into the spike within the time box, team members should be allowed to get into the nitty-gritty of what needs to be done. They need to gather relevant information. That is their sole objective. They are seeking this information to illuminate their understanding of the project, right? And once that has been gleaned, they document their findings, they share their findings, and the findings produce insights. The findings are going to ensure that the team can better estimate, and they can refer back to this all throughout the process of estimating. The next thing that the team needs to do is to estimate based on the empirical data that has been gleaned. Use the findings from the spike to make more informed estimates for the project. Instead of relying solely on guesswork or baseless historical information that doesn't pertain to this unknown project, you want to make your estimates be based on empirical data. In other words, finding real information, putting it back into the mix. There are actually instances where you break your project down into small pieces, you do a little bit, and then you glean knowledge from that you put back into the future estimates. So if you're working on an unknown project, don't base it on dumb luck. Don't base it on, oh, I think based on what we did before. No, what you did before has no place. You get what I'm saying? The next step after using this empirical data is to use a concept of sizing that works for you. It could be large, medium, small, or it could be extra large, large, medium, small, extra small. However you want to slice or dice it, categorize and size based on your understanding and attempt doing some of these things. And then at least you'll have a benchmark. So if what you termed as large takes you 8 weeks, well, at least you know roughly, give or take, that's how long a large chunk of work would take. But you got to break those pieces of work down into smaller chunks. And then, based on whether it's small, medium, large, you can then prioritize these tasks based on importance and complexity. So I'm going to go through the points so far. Number 1, define the spike. Number 2, set a deadline. Number 3, conduct research and exploration. Number 4, document findings. Number 5, estimate based on empirical data. Number 6, use story points for estimating. And you can find more about story points on Mike Cohn's channel. He's got some really great videos. His last name is spelled C-O-H-N. Number 7, break down the project into small, medium, and large. Number 8, factor in contingencies. It's essential to include contingencies in your estimates. Always make some wiggle room for what may be worse than you thought. Also, some things could be better, but we want to think about the negative things that could happen and take our estimates up. Number 9, focus on time blocking. Allocate specific time blocks for the different tasks and activities. Then they have a better chance of being done. In the world of Agile, we talk about sprints. So for that sprint, it's dedicated to nothing but that work. And if you follow this evolution of work by having spikes, doing the research, then you're better able to estimate. And we're not saying you're estimating the entire project. No, you got an idea of what the entire thing may take, but you're breaking it down into smaller bite-sized chunks called iterations or sprints. You break the work down as you're discovering it. You do one of the sprints. You learn, you put it back into the mix. You do the second sprint. You execute, you're going to make mistakes, stumble, but you put that back into the mix and then you keep moving ahead. That is the best way of dealing with an unknown project, with unknowns. The best way to deal with unknowns is not to bury your head in the sand and say, well, I guess estimates are no good. Instead, it is to estimate using a different mousetrap, using the concept of spiking, using the concept of iterations or sprints, using the concept of time blocking. There's so much data to prove that this is the right way to do it. Research by McKinsey and Company suggests that companies that invest in data-driven decision-making, such as what I described, like spiking, right? That's data-driven decision-making. They outperform their competitors by up to 5%. A study by University of California, Berkeley found that projects with clear documentation are 30% more likely to be delivered on time. So how do you work on a new unknown project without estimates, without research? No, you got to do that. The Project Management Institute found that projects with a documented knowledge-based experience, a 15% reduction in rework. So when your knowledge base is solid and people can see what was spiked and the information is available, it results in reduction of rework by 15% is what PMI is saying. So I want you to really think about how you can take this concept of spiking back to your company, back to your team, research, estimate a little bit, do a little bit, learn lessons, put it back into the mix. Estimate a little bit, do a little bit, gather data, put it back into the mix. That is the way to deal with unknowns. Not planning everything from the beginning all the way to the end. That historically does fail. So you don't want to do that. Some of the cardinal sins of predictive projects being a vehicle for unknowns are as follows. Number 1, overemphasis on accuracy. We're trying to get everything so accurate because management is going to hold us to the flame. No, over time, those things need to be allowed to change. Number 2, limited flexibility. In the world of predictive, we are limited in our flexibility, and that's okay because Predictive projects should be used for things that are very firm and not unknown. For unknown projects, you need to be using something more agile. Another reason why predictive will fail for unknowns is inadequate risk management, lack of stakeholder involvement in some cases, and even the failure to be agile. Because predictive is predictive for a reason. And it's not for the same reasons we do agile. We do predictive because we know all the scope or a lot of the scope up front. We know how change will probably be on this project, a whole lot less change than normal. So predictive is good when we know all or most of the scope and when change is minute. But when things are unknown, you shouldn't be attempting to use predictive methods. And when things are unknown, you also shouldn't be attempting to not estimate. There are ways you should estimate. Even if it's high level, even if it's a more analogous field, but with data, you gotta do the data. That's what a lot of folks don't do. They don't do the spikes, the researching, the prototyping. They don't do that. But if you did that, you have a better chance of your estimates succeeding, especially when you rinse, repeat, put back into the process. Okay? I hope you found this to be valuable, and I hope it spurred some ideas for you and your team. All the very best on your projects, and have fun estimating and spiking.